Hey guys, welcome back! In today's video I'm going to be going through the process of making Hanami the Sakura Kitsune, so stay tuned. So I'm starting off with this white chrome acrylic paint, but you can use any acrylic paint, doesn't matter what. And I have sculpted, moulded and cast this piece in resin, and I'll be painting it a solid white colour. So I've put down a primer coat, which is just a basic white paint that has a nice tooth on it, so the paint can stick to the resin piece because resin is quite slippery. So I put that primer on first, and then I'll end up putting around 4 coats of this white paint because it is a little bit transparent, so I wanted to get that solid white colouring. And resin is white, but it sometimes is a little on the yellow side, so this particular one was on a yellow tone, so I wanted to make it a solid white piece. Alright, moving on to using some black chrome acrylic paint, and I'm going to go in and paint the inside of the eyes, the mouth and the nose area in that black paint. So it's needed a bit of a steady hand and a thin tip brush to do this, because I didn't want to spill out too much onto the edge of the white because it's quite hard to get that white back when you've painted over the black. So very steady hand, and you know, I don't have the steadiest of hands, but I did go over the spots that I missed with some white paint and clean up the edges a bit. So a little bit of a background story about Sakura Kitsunes. Sakura Kitsunes are graceful and peaceful creatures. They tend to change their appearance with the seasons. The natives believe these kitsunes bring the change of seasons with them, often leaving out offerings as a thank you. Bearing marks in the faces of the different seasons, the Sakura Kitsune has the marks of the cherry blossom on its face. These kitsunes have a sweet scent, bringing a sense of comfort to the village it visits. Sakura Kitsunes are found throughout the world and can only be found during the spring season. My Kitsune doll is heavily influenced by Japanese mythology, so I wanted to incorporate a storyline that is a major part of Japanese tradition, and as it's spring here in Australia now, I also wanted to have a softer doll that represented something beautiful. I drew my inspiration from the sakura, or the cherry blossom tree, with the subtle pink and white colouring of the blossoms. I decided on a pale pink for the blossoms on the face of the kitsune, as I thought a stronger pink would be too overwhelming for the doll. So there you have it, just a little insight of what a Sakura Kitsune is and how I went about designing it. And here is the black all finished. Moving on to the pink. So I'm using a Devian Matisse paint in ash pink, and it's a nice baby pink colour, and I'm really digging this colour at the moment. So for this colour I'm only going to be painting the inside of the ears, around the nose, mouth and the cherry blossom bits. So I'm starting off with a thin tip brush, and I'm just masking out where I want the pink to go so I don't go too overboard with it. And it's always better to start off small and build up upon what you're painting, rather than going too big to begin with and then having to cover it up with paint that might not cover things up. So this little kitsune is available in my Etsy shop if she's still not sold yet, and you can find the link to my Etsy shop in my description box. There's also a couple of other little critters that are looking for home there, so check it out. Okay, moving on to the outside of the eye, and I wanted to just do a really thin pink line that was barely visible on the pink here. It also helped neaten up the edges of that eye, so again I got a really thin tip brush, and I have watered it down just a tad so it can smoothly glide over the surface and not leave any weird paint marks. So also a nice tip if you're wanting to do some fine lining thing, or you could even try different paints, because this acrylic paint is quite thick and I wouldn't really recommend it for fine lining unless you add a tad of water. adding some little pink bits around the ends of the mouth. I'm only doing the ends of the mouth here and not the whole way around, just because I didn't want to be too weird and overwhelming and look like he had lipstick on. And I decided to add some 2 little fox whiskers to each side of the cheek. Nothing special, just something that I wanted to add. And moving on to the cherry blossom paintings, and I had this idea of painting some cherry blossoms like it was sweeping over the face, like it falls off the tree in Japan. So I had just an idea that I wanted to do large and small ones from the right side to the left side of the face. So this took quite a bit of time to do, and it was very tedious, but I think it turned out really great. And it's better than using like little nail stickers or something, because it's just not really part of the painting, and I just feel like it was the easy way out. So I wanted to paint it and incorporate that a bit better. Alright, here's what we have. Pretty happy with it. Right, moving on to painting the bottoms of the feet, and you've seen this a million times, so I'm only going to do a short little segment on it that's sped up. And I'm using that same black chrome acrylic paint, but you can use whatever paint you desire. You could also try different colours for the paw pads as well, but I'm just used to doing black paw pads because it kind of just works. Alright, so this is a faux fur that I'm going to be using. It has a baby pink undertone with a bit of a darker pink tips. And I'm going to be doing a white underbelly. So as you can see, I have cut out some extra parts for the feet and the legs because I wanted them to be pink and not white. So I have to sew them individually onto the white underbelly. So it's a bit more time consuming, but I like the effect of it, so definitely worth it. And as you can see, I've already drawn out the patterns of the feet and the body, but not the underbelly here. And I'm just cutting around it, just cutting the backing like I normally do and not the actual pile. And I'm going to be pinning it up and sewing it on a sewing machine because I find the sewing machine gives way more strength and durability rather than hand sewing the whole thing. So here's a little hand sewing segment, and I'm just hand sewing the tail because it is quite thin and it's kind of really hard to work in a sewing machine because it gets too thick, and a sewing machine can't really handle the thickness. So it's not an industrial sewing machine, so it's just a domestic one, and most domestic ones have some trouble with faux furs, especially the thicker ones that just get stuck and breaks the needle, so I don't really want a sharp pointy needle flying in my eye. Alright, so after we've sewn it up, we'll have this. It's all sewn inside out, so I need to put it inside out. And I have the butt area open, so I can pull the inside out. Once I've put the armature into the body and attach the resin pieces, and like I've said in my previous videos, I haven't shown this for a particular reason, one being it's a very particular technique of mine, and if I may be using it for a Patreon or a paid tutorial. So once I've finished sewing all the bits up with a ladder stitch, I will then go in with some tacky fabric glue, and I will load up the bottom and attach that faux fur to the resin piece, and you're done. So here's the final doll. What do you think? You can check out my Etsy store to see if she's still available. The link is in my description. Alright guys, that's it for me today. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the little backstory of Hanami, and I can probably do it in some further dolls that I create. You can also check me out on Instagram and Facebook at Creatures of Nat. If you have any requests, you can leave it in the comments down below, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!